Digimon Ghost Game began airing on the 3rd of October 2021 and concluded on March 26, 2023, meaning this Spooktober Spectacular is 2 years since Digimon Ghost Game first aired, and 7 months since it finished. Over the course of Digimon Ghost Game airing, and now with the show over, I would say that generally it was divisive. Some people proclaiming it as the best Digimon season in over a decade, and some thinking it was a complete waste of over a year of their lives. And then you have people like me, in the middle, who enjoyed a lot about Ghost Game, but also found a lot of it just didn't work. So, given the fact that a Digimon Ghost Game dub is now in production, on today's video, I want to talk about it. This isn't a takedown of Digimon Ghost Game, nor is it an in-depth video essay of every fault and victory of the season. More so, this is my emotional response, and thoughts that I never really gave about Ghost Game during its airing. As you may have noticed, after Halloween of 2021, my videos on Ghost Game kinda dried up. So grab a warm drink, put on the spooky lighting, and of course, massive spoiler warning for the entirety of Digimon Ghost Game, because
it's Karn Spooktober Spectacular!
What is up, digital companions? Welcome back to Karn Spooktober Spectacular. Make sure you're subscribed, especially if you want to see more videos like this one, a little bit more personal than my what if silliness. And I do want to say before the second half of the video, which is very much the negatives, there was a lot I loved about Digimon Ghost Game. First off, having characters and scenarios designed by Tenya Yabano and Hiroshi Izawa was huge. They are the GOATs of the Digimon franchise. Makers of Digimon V-Tamer, a beloved manga, even if it also has plenty of faults, and people who have contributed to the entire franchise for most of its duration. Having these two on board for Ghost Game was a great sign and made me very excited. The idea of Ghost Game was also a really cool thing. A much darker tone, a spooky Halloween season was something Digimon had never done before. Sure, Digimon had explored darkness and even Halloween, but not as an entire season's focus. Then, just prior to the show airing and once it started, we had the Gulus mystery. We have of course had Dark Digivolution in Digimon before, Agumon becoming Greymon and then Skull Greymon, and also Virus Metal Greymon in 02, Megidramon of course in Tamers, the Dark Spirits in Frontier, on and on and on, Shine Greymon Ruin Mode, but we'd never had a Digimon partner, a Gogglehead partner, although Hero's not really a Gogglehead apart from once or twice, had a dark side to him, an innate darkness that you would fear not just in one episode but throughout the entire season. Every time Gamamon Digivolved, you were flipping the coin on whether Gulus would reappear. The closest we have to this is Tamers, where Guilmon's evolutions were always a little bit rowdy and reckless because of the digital hazard, but it was really War Growlmon to Megidramon in that one isolated incident before they worked out to kind of purify Guilmon with Biomerge into Gallantmon that presented a threat. It wasn't like Megidramon was showing up every 10 episodes, you know? That's such an incredible setup for a season and such a unique idea for a main character partner. Something we've truly never seen in the anime before. And there were other mysteries from the start, like what happened to Hiro's dad Hokuto? Where is he gone into the digital world? Is he alive? Is he dead? Is this all a ruse from some other dark master? What is the origin of the Digivice V? How did Hokuto make it or find it? And throughout the season we had things like the Black Digitron Digimon showing up whenever Gulus Gamamon did, becoming one of the main things that a lot of people excited for the overarching narrative of Ghost Game were hoping to see more of. And even little things like Black Gatomon Uva. There were lots of hints to something more. Episodes like Bokomon's murder at the hands of Sealsdramon and Gamamon's rageful transformation to Gulus Gamamon were some of the best episodes in Digimon's entire history. But a thing a lot of people are forgetting when they defend episodes like this in the entire season is that they also demonstrate one of the core arguments as to why people who say you shouldn't criticize Ghost Game are kind of wrong. Episodic. Adjective. 1. Containing or consisting of a series of separate parts or events. An episodic narrative. 2. Of a program or story. Broadcast or published as a series of installments. I want to acknowledge off the bat, the creators of Ghost Game did specifically say that the show was going to be episodic, that it was designed for the TikTok generation of people who only watch small amounts of content and don't stick around for long-form content or overarching narratives. But people who love the show Ghost Game have taken that kind of feeling from from the creators and the term episodic and ran with it, thinking it means the entire show was never supposed to have overarching narratives, and that people who didn't enjoy Ghost Game because it was lacking in narrative payoff are wrong, don't understand what episodic means. But actually it's those defenders that don't know what episodic means. Episodic in television means just that. It is a series of episodes that, yes, should be consumable to someone with no familiarity with the show, but that does not mean that an episodic show does not have overarching plots or a strong desire to wrap up plotlines cohesively in a satisfying manner. You know what other shows are episodic? The Office, X-Files, and How I Met Your Mother, among hundreds of others. All very popular shows you can watch one episode of in isolation just fine and be drawn in and enjoy it, but that also have overarching narratives designed to keep repeat viewers interested and wanting to see more, so they're rewarded for watching the whole season. Will Jim and Pam get together? Will Mulder and Scully get together? Or will Mulder finally believe Scully that aliens exist? Or in the case of How I Met Your Mother, the overarching narrative of the entire show, who is the mother, is the show, is the narrative, despite it being an episodic sitcom. And every episode of How I Met Your Mother is ultimately leading to the resolution of that question. Damn, I never thought I'd actually get to talk about How I Met Your Mother in a Digimon video, but I'm living right now. Digimon partner for Barney Stinson when? The Pokemon episode is actually a great example of how episodic television can also have overarching narratives. In isolation, if you never watched another episode of Ghost Game, just from what you see in this one episode, you would understand Bokomon is a friend of Gamamon, his death is significant, and Gulus Gamamon is not something you want to come out. But with the overarching story, when you watch the whole season, you know just how significant Bokomon is. You know what Bokomon was helping Hero and friends achieve. You've seen Gulus Gamamon before, so you know just how terrifying it is that he's showing up here and what it could mean for future episodes, especially when Gamamon is in this traumatized state. All of that context is the antithesis to the idea that people purport that Ghost Game is supposed to be individual self-contained episodes and that an overarching narrative was never the intent, because it very clearly was. From day one, it was a continuing story. It was just told in an episodic manner. There are a ton more examples of this though, and I really encourage you to go watch my friend Corey from the DigiKnows videos on Ghost Game that he made as they were airing each week. Corey's media literacy is very strong and he has similar thoughts on the Digimon franchise to me, so you'll get a real deep dive on the season as it unfolded through him, which I couldn't provide because I didn't make those weekly videos. All of my thoughts that I have now are in reflection, looking back. Digimon Ghost Game lost me on a lot of factors, and it was a very slow fall to apathy. I went from really enjoying it, hoping that it would have more things that I found interesting, to over the weeks holding on to the things that I still enjoyed, until eventually those things that I did enjoy weren't enough to keep me invested in the show. I regularly fell off and would kind of batch catch up with episodes, or I'll be honest with you, occasionally I have now watched the whole season. Some weeks I was just watching Corey's video. That shouldn't have happened. The Black Digitron Digimon teasers feeling more and more like they weren't leading anywhere was one of the first symptoms to me that there was something that I wasn't enjoying about Ghost Game. This idea of these mysterious strangers peering from the shadows every time Gulus appeared was fascinating, but it just ultimately turned out to be Quantumon sending some friends to go watch Gulus. Like, okay, it's a reason, but it's not a good one. I think in a lot of fandom circles, when someone has a criticism of something that occurs in a show or piece of media, people will say, oh, well, there was a reason for that, often overlooking that a reason doesn't necessarily mean a good reason. If I stab your nan and my reason was that I wanted to find out how good I am at stabbing nans, you wouldn't go, oh yeah, well fair enough, off you go. That's obviously hyperbole, but it demonstrates my point. While Ghost Game doesn't have too many actual abandoned threads once the show is over, a common criticism I see is it having plot holes or abandoned storylines, which generally it doesn't. They are wrapped up, they're just not wrapped up very well. Those carrots being dangled throughout the season were in almost every instance not rewarding or consistent. Another part that lost me was the evolutions had very minor pivotal moments, often feeling like they should have had more depth than they do, but ultimately just occurring in random episodes. Now, this isn't a Ghost Game exclusive problem, and every season has its we're just digivolving because we are segments, but I think one of the biggest strengths of Digimon is when tamers and their partners and friends overcome adversity, personal strife, etc., and that triggers a positive digivolution. It is there in Ghost Game, but specifically the Kano Weissmon debut always comes to mind. I thought it felt very shoehorned in and less paced out. Especially I would like some kind of internal internal dialogue with Goulus allowing Kano Weissmon to assimilate some of its power, as visually, to me and many others, Kano Weissmon looked like a merging of not just Beetle, Chaos, and Vasion Gamamon, but also its darkness in official art hinted at an element of Goulus too. In fact, Kano Weissmon and Proximamon to me feel very linked, with Siriusmon and Arcturusmon feeling more like a diverging of light and darkness in the middle. The other reason it lost me was length. 67 episodes is just too much. I like being able to take my time over weeks to enjoy something, but 60 episodes is insane. It honestly got repetitive. While each horror visual was unique, a lot of episodes were just, what if a kid had a bad time with a Digimon? There wasn't a lot that shook up the status quo, and that seeming aversion to add any element that would shake up the status quo. They added Espimon, for instance, which felt like something fresh, but ultimately didn't achieve much. And myself and many others wanted something of a 6th Ranger, a new Digidestined new tamer to join the team. Espimon, Ryudamon, basically any Digimon we saw in that season would have been a good opportunity to do that. Others have said that's a ridiculous idea. Adding a new character would mean the show isn't episodic, which again, not true remotely. Literally every sitcom adds new characters and loses old ones. All that matters is that each individual episode is 95% completely watchable to someone who has never seen an episode, but with enough intrigue to hook them in to watch more episodes. The mystery of Hokuto in the digital world is set up like it's the biggest thing ever. Something strange is going down, perhaps something sinister with Hokuto himself, with these random letters being delivered. Perhaps he's been dead the whole time and nah, it really doesn't amount to anything, he just is in the digital world. We also got a swathe of new Gamamon Digivolutions that never appeared in the show. I'm actually fine with not seeing Gillied Humon, Fumamon, and Bombamon. They definitely feel more like VPET exclusive forms, but why did they design Regulusmon and Arcturusmon and only show us Regulusmon? Why make this phenomenal looking seeming Jogress of Arcturusmon and Siriusmon and Proximamon and then only use it in the card game and Vital Bracelets? It just feels like an abandoned plot point to me. And given something we're going to talk about a little bit later with the hiatus and the Toei hack, perhaps it was abandoned. The Gamamon and Goulus personalities do somewhat merge or at least coexist at the end of the season. That surely would have been a good opportunity to either merge them as Proximamon and save the digital and human worlds from the big threat from space, or perhaps show that Proximamon is the big threat from space. Either way, it would be more rewarding payoff than the deflated ending we got. But that begs the question of how could an almost 70 episode season not have time to introduce all these elements, but could spend multiple one-offs on very similar episodes, just rotating in a different Digimon and a different school kid. The budget was clearly there for that many episodes. Also, Espimon, yeah, shows up, gets one Evo, refuses to elaborate, okay. We actually did a custom art video giving it a full line if you want to check it out. It was a Ghost Game video, so of course it underperformed. Much shorter. Perhaps this is the Brit in me, but so many of my favourite shows are able to do amazing stuff in less than 20 episodes, sometimes less than 10. Even specifically Japanese shows like my favourite anime of all time, Anohana, is only 12 episodes and one movie, and it emotionally ruined me. My personal opinion is that Ghost Game should have been a Halloween and winter only anime, starting in October and ending in, say, February, giving it about 20 episodes rather than the 67 it ended up with. Though there were some production issues during Ghost Game due to a hack of Toei. Funny how Ghost Game went on hiatus because of a hack and Digimon Adventure 2020 went on hiatus because of COVID. Maybe part of the reason why they haven't made a new Digimon anime is just because they're sick of production issues. I don't know. The hack likely had knock-on effects to the show, so I would be willing to extend it to say 30 or 35 episodes, ending during the late spring. I can't help shake the feeling things did change with Ghost Game as a result of the hack and hiatus, but we'll probably never know just how much of the plot of the show was settled on prior to that. But it did to me mark a decided turning point in the show, and so I really do suspect there is correlation there. But that is 100% not Toei's fault. They didn't anticipate being hacked, and that's not something I would or could blame them for. However, being afforded more time to work on something usually doesn't harm a product, so kind of 50-50 there. It's also clear Ghost Game didn't generate as much sales or hype as they were perhaps expecting. Not that Digimon is doing badly financially, but definitely Ghost Game didn't really add a ton. If we look at the Vital Bracelet, it went from very regular releases to very stagnant, very spaced out B-memory releases over 2023. Perhaps if the Digivice Jewel V was a more successful product, that wouldn't be the case. So I think 20 episodes of Scooby-Doo with a good plot, start, something in the middle, and the end would have hit the perfect balance. There's also a larger problem with Digimon marketing where every branch of Digimon seems totally out of sync with each other. Digimon Survive comes out the same year as Ghost Game with a Guilmon first month bonus. I guess it was perceived Tamers was the most popular season. Imagine if that was Gamamon, or if Guilmon and Gamamon were first month bonuses. They released sets of the card game in a better time frame to coincide with other pieces of media, but with the Japanese and English release difference, that does mean we're like just getting a big Digimon Ghost Game focus in the more recent sets, after Ghost Game already finished on Crunchyroll and way before a dub comes out. I will say a lot of the time Pokemon comparisons are largely unhelpful, but in this instance, Digimon really could learn from Pokemon. The Generations idea I think would be too restrictive for Digimon, but I really do think some more synergy would do wonders for the brand. When a new game comes out, a new season of the anime is not far to follow in Pokemon, the card game usually lines up with the anime and the video games. Things like Terra Raid battles, or things like the Paradox, Suicune, and Virizion, almost certainly hinting to the games that are going to get announced in February, would all be things that Digimon could really benefit from. Survive and Ghost Game both coming out in a similar time frame and both being a much more darker take on Digimon seemed like a no-brainer for synergy. Adding recruitable Gamamon, Angoramon, and Jellymon as first month bonuses, maybe having the Master show up in Ghost Game as a Monster of the Week or small overarching sub-boss. Simple stuff to implement that could be done towards the end of development that wouldn't require Digimon Survive be completely recoded from the ground up to add a bunch of Ghost Game stuff. They would be recruitable Digimon with no story elements, so they'd basically just be sprites that you'd have to add. Currently, Digimon products seem to release in largely isolation from each other, the only real links currently being the JP card game having a set themed around Digimon Adventure 02 at the beginning, which is definitely good, but then like the Super Complete Selection Animation D3s got revealed much earlier this year than 02 at the beginning, and come out way after the movie comes out, due to the way P Bandai works. And tying back to my idea about 20-30 episode seasons, if they had the budget for 67 episodes of an anime anyway, a 20 to 30 episode season of Ghost Game would mean presumably there's budget for 30-ish more episodes. To me, that would then give us room for a brand new Digimon season. Could be anything, could be similar to Ghost Game, could be completely different, something in a whole new direction would be really cool. And then because people would be wanting more Ghost Game, perhaps a TV movie could release the following October. Hell, make it a crossover with the show that followed Ghost Game, why not? I have absolutely no love for Tokusatsu anymore, but the fact that Sentai and Rider now run all year round, with only a few gaps, and lean heavily into gimmicks to sell toys, I think is something Digimon could really learn. I think it's why Adventure 02 and Tamers still have such a hold on people. Their toy lines function very similarly to Toku shows. You get the Digivice, then the tags and crests in Adventure. You get the Digivices and the Armor Digi-Eggs and the Jogress forms with unique Digivices in 02. And in Tamers you get the Digivices, the cards, and the upgraded Digivice for Takato, much like a final form for a rider. And yes, Ghost Game technically did the same thing, having the Digivice V version of the Vital Bracelet, then the upgraded Digivice Jewel V based on the Vital Bracelet BE, and dim cards released throughout for some of the main characters, but I feel like a lot of people couldn't really tell the difference, what the point was of getting a Digivice Jewel V. To this day, I still get comments on my videos asking what the difference is between a Vital Bracelet BE, a Digivice V, a Digivice Jewel V, and so on. Ghost Game tried to ape that success, particularly Tamers. There is a lot of parallels to Tamers in Ghost Game, but I think not effectively enough in show to drive people towards buying more merch. Still did a fine enough job, just not an excellent job, you know? Digimon is in a very, very weird spot as a franchise right now. Its primary audience appears to have shifted and is no longer children, and it seems less and less interested in curating a new, younger audience. A large amount of Digimon's output is member berries for Japanese and international fans who grew up with Digimon, and even new products like the Vital Bracelet are more marketed at teens and older adults in Japan, and with B Memory specifically igniting nostalgia, but is marketed at kids in the US. However, they basically drop most of the Digimon branding. The Vital Hero is not a Digimon toy, which is kind of true with the Vital Bracelet BE in Japan now too, but even when they sell Digimon dim cards for the Vital Hero, it's like they don't want to acknowledge it's Digimon, calling them only digital monsters and really downplaying that connection. Even Ghost Game, while definitely for kids, took a more horror lean, which would appeal to the analog horror-pilled millennials who grew up with Skull Greymon and other dark Digivolutions, perhaps more than little Timmy who has yet to comprehend the horrors of the universe. The problem with member berries though is that you can only milk them for so long before the fandom's metaphorical teat dries up, before people either age out or get sick of the things that you're trying to milk them about. Probably shouldn't talk about milking so much. Bandai and Toei are good at doing this with their other franchises. Dragon Ball makes member berry media, but also makes new anime, forges forward, even if that forging forward sometimes is also kinda member berries. Dragon Ball Daima looks wild. Sentai Rider both regularly have anniversary events, CSM releases of older devices, but also make a new season every year primarily for kids. If it happens to appeal to adults, that's great, but it's not the main reason. Even Precure or like One Piece, a big earner for Toei and Bandai, know how to strike that balance between nostalgia pandering and making new things. So why is Digimon struggling to follow their heels? Digimon Seekers is actually a really good example of what a Digimon anime that appeals to existing and new fans could be. It has the Vital Bracelet, but it also has the OG Digimon V-Pet, which could be used to sell the version 20th or the color. It has Digimon Axe Axels, please release a Color Axel Bandai. And it has a cool blend of that cyber sleuth vibe mixed in with other familiar and new elements of the franchise. But to many, it's inaccessible due to its mid-tier translation and its release method of 1 part per week on a website. Ghost Game actually had this problem too, where because it was called Ghost Game, some people thought it was a video game. That's on them. That's not Bandai or Toei's fault. People are just dumb. But Digimon Seekers, every video I see talking about Digimon Seekers, or every time I see a post about it or a tweet, there is at least one person asking, what is this? Is this a manga? Is this an anime? And then they find out it's a book on a website and they're like, what? I don't think the marketing of Seekers successfully demonstrated well enough that it was a web-only novel with some auxiliary toys and promotional videos. And whenever those promotional videos that are run as ads on YouTube hit people's recommended or hit their pre-rolls, they think that's what Digimon Seekers is, this cool live-action show, only to find out that no, it's a book. I love books, but I think we can all recognize it's often only very engaging or sometimes well-written literature that hits the cultural zeitgeist. And it's become much less common in the digital era for a book to hit the heady heights of early or pre-internet times. Even A Song of Ice and Fire's popularity only went to another stratosphere once it was adapted for TV as Game of Thrones. As a big and active fan of Digimon, I don't personally need an anime right now. We've gone years without anime before, and I can find joy in the older manga, rewatching old seasons, playing the TCG, checking out new V-Pets or toys, or in my specific case, thinking of fun what-ifs and scenarios for my videos. But the bottom line for corporations is money. And unfortunately, a popular anime is what people want and remember about big franchises, and I can't lie, I like it when we have an anime airing. It keeps people in and, more importantly, out of the franchise talking about Digimon week after week. A large chunk of One Piece, Dragon Ball, Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, etc, etc, etc fans are fans because of the anime. Their hype during the season feeds the franchise's presence, and the wait for season 2, 3, etc has regular supplemental media like video games, movies like Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, etc that keep the properties relevant culturally, not just within their fandom. Looking to older stuff, Naruto, Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist, Bleach, they became household names off their anime, even if their manga were hugely popular too, and I don't want to downplay the success of their pre-anime media, but it's undeniable that to many a layman, a normie, an anime legitimizes a manga, or at least makes it so it's the most easily consumable and visually engaging version of that property. Naruto, Dragon Ball are international household names because of the way they aired as anime. They would still be successful as manga, but I can guarantee you not to the same degree. And if they were just books, oh boy. Ghost Game was a really wonderful idea, and I would rather Digimon take risks like Ghost Game and do something new than just do nostalgia content, or nothing at all. But ultimately, it evidently did not land how it should have. Anecdotally, my Ghost Game videos do not hit like my videos in other Digimon series, regularly underperforming in comparison to even like Adventure 2020, Frontier, or Data Squad content, so I can't help but feel it didn't hit the zeitgeist like perhaps it should have. There is so much to love about Digimon Ghost Game, from its setting to its horror, its characters, and even its individual episodes, but I think its two main failures were not picking a lane between one-off or narrative content, and not having enough merch that connected to key moments of the show. For people who just wanted Digimon Scooby-Doo, the show definitely has its place. Monster of the Week horror is very much enjoyable, but for 67 episodes, well, even most actual Scooby-Doo seasons never came that close to that kind of inflated episode count. Perhaps the intent was to ape Gegege no Kitaro, which had an insane 97 episode run, a show that heavily inspired Ghost Game and had staff from its 2018 version work on Ghost Game too. But perhaps following Gegege no Kitaro with Digimon Gegege no Kitaro wasn't the smartest move. Gegege no Kitaro has huge affection in Japan, it being a story from the 60s originally, but Digimon doing that same shtick perhaps wouldn't attract the same love from Japanese audiences, even if they love Gegege no Kitaro. After 97 episodes very recently, the prospect of 67 more episodes of a very similar show, but this time with a Digimon coat of paint, might not appeal. And given that even the new version of Gegege no Kitaro has between a 60 and 75% approval rating online, it's not like those 97 episodes were 10 out of 10 content that everyone was craving more of. So I'm not sure why Toei thought the same formula would produce a 10 out of 10 show for Digimon. It also clearly didn't work, with most sites landing at about a 65%. Definitely above mid, but not lighting the world on fire. And for the overarching story, well, I think it's clear it was unsatisfactory to a large percentage of viewers. The last minute rug pull of the great impending threat being years away, the complete fizzling out of the Black Digitron Digimon who were teased for literally an entire season, it all felt a little bit lackluster. The major win of the endgame of Ghost Game really was the Gulus versus Hero and Gamamon characterization, which was some of the strongest in the whole show, perhaps the strongest in the history of Digimon, but couldn't make up for the other things teased for over a year of programming that in the end actually didn't matter. I guess my final thought is this: Digimon Ghost Game was fun and spooky and the most excited I had been about a Digimon season in a while. I was pretty unoptimistic optimistic about Digimon Adventure 2020 from the start, whereas Ghost Game I felt real excitement for. But for me, there was only so many times it could do the same trick before I got bored. It's like jump scares in horror movies or games. The first time I got jump scared 20 years ago, it had never happened to me. It genuinely shocked and surprised me. But now most jump scares are telegraphed to the extreme when they happen, and so even if they get me, I feel immense disappointment at their mere existence and kinda cringe. And I think Ghost Game doing that same weekly trick of Digimon doing a spooky thing with humans and maybe Ghoulish Gamamon will show up exhausted my personal desire to see it long before the show finished. I am fascinated by narrative, enthralled by twists and turns, enraptured by satisfying payoff, and to me, Ghost Game just wasn't that show. And maybe that's okay. Not everything has to be for me and not everything has to be for you. Maybe in 10, 20 years, a whole new crop of kids, by then grown up, will have huge nostalgia for it and that will refeed the machine. But for me, I can't help but dream of the season we could have had. The episodic but still rewarding horror anime with a great payoff paced well throughout the season, but also in the finale, and I'm always going to be a little sad I didn't get that. Because despite all of the talk of it was always supposed to be episodic, to me, the show itself very clearly wanted us to crave more of the mystery it deliberately set up. And so while I can appreciate tons of elements of Ghost Game, I also mourn what Ghost Game could have been. So that's it, my emotional response, my post-mortem of Digimon Ghost Game. What did you think of Digimon Ghost Game? Remember, I am just talking about my opinion here. I've tried to state throughout the whole video, this is just what I think, it's not objective, and also address things that I liked about the show. So keep those comments respectful if you could. Please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos like this one. Trying to do less sponsored videos in 2024, but I need to have a lot of channel members for that to be viable with custom art. Just like my Sovereigns, ZDK14, Jmon, and Mickey D343, as well as my Digidestined, my Karn Club, my Tamers, everyone for holding it down. Thank you so much for watching, I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time when we go spooky. Bye bye.